Yo, what's up, boys? So, I wanted to make a quick guide on how I was able to bench 315 at the age of 18 and how I was basically able to go from benching maybe like 45 pounds for 5 reps to hitting 3 plates over a couple of years. I didn't always grow up this strong. I was very skinny. I was very weak. I was a soccer kid growing up, and I was also I was pretty much a pussy for most of my life, but I was able to turn that around in the last couple of years and, put up what I would call pretty decent bench press. So I want to give you guys all the knowledge that I have on this topic, exactly how you can bring up your bench, and if benching 315 is in the cards for you. Now, the best part about benching 315, about becoming strong, it's not about like the respect or like the glances in the gym that you get whenever you're doing your sets. The best part is just simply knowing that you set your sights on a goal and that you were able to go out there and accomplish it. That you were able to go out there and push yourself. Set your mind on something and actually achieve it, because there is no better feeling than that. There's no feeling more fulfilling. And that's the best part about this. Like, my life hasn't really changed from hitting 315. But the amount of self-respect, the amount of confidence I have in my ability to get things done has gone way up. And this is way more than just lifting. So I'm going to go over everything that you need to bench press 315. So your nutrition, your training, your foundation, literally everything that you need to know to be able to hit this number. Now, the first thing that you have to understand is that the foundation of your routine, the foundation of your nutrition is all built upon your level of personal development. You can only build a pyramid as tall as its base is wide, right? And that foundation, that base of your pyramid of strength is always going to be the foundation, because you'll never be better than your level of personal development. And every problem you have with consistency, not being able to show up, is simply a manifestation of your personal development. It has nothing to do with your gym routine. It has nothing to do with your diet. It's simply that you're just not the level of person that can actually push yourself to achieve those things. So that's the first thing that you need to understand, is that the way you do one thing is the way that you do everything. So you can't act very disciplined in the gym, hit all your lifts, and then the second you leave the gym, just be a slob and eat shit food and be lazy. Those two things aren't going to work together to get you the best results. And as you do one thing, that's how you're going to do everything. And it's all just going to depend on your level of personal development. So if you're not a person who's able to be disciplined in other areas of life, just know benching 315 is probably not going to be in the cards for you, because it's going to be a long process. It's going to be a grind. You're going to have times where you miss it. When I went for 315, I missed it twice before I got it. Twice. You're going to have moments where you want to give up. You're going to have moments where you just you feel like it's not worth it. But if you have that level of personal development, you'll be able to get through those hard periods. Now, if you look at Jeff Bezos, in the last 4 or 5 years, that guy's gotten jacked. He used to be some skinny tech nerd, and out of nowhere, boom, physique just blew up. The reason why it was so easy and fast for him to build a bigger and better physique is just because he built a multi-million-dollar business. So of course it's going to be easy for him to get jacked. Of course, because he's got super high levels of personal development, right? So if you're actually going to become the kind of person that can actually, stay consistent with their training, can stay consistent with their nutrition, and can actually take it to the next level, then you need to understand the world mirror. Now, the world is simply a reflection of your internal state. So if we look at this right here, we got the fat dude and we got the mirror. The mirror is what the world can see. It is the external world. It's the things on the outside that everyone can see. And then the man is the internal. These are the thoughts in your mind. This is your mindset. All sorts of things like that. And what everyone tries to do is that they try and change what they see in the reflection. They try to change their life. They try and change their habits. They try and change all these different things by just drawing on the mirror. They try and get the mirror and the reflection to look a different way than it actually should. And what ends up happening is that this just becomes wasted energy. You spend all this time just drawing on the mirror, just trying to change it, but nothing changes. The only way that you can change the mirror and the external state is by changing your internal state. That is what everything depends on. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your identity. All of those things are going to be reflected in the world. Like for me, back when my bench press was pretty weak, I was skinnier and, my life kind of sucked. I was a loser and I had the identity and mindset of a loser. I was weak. I couldn't get my diet down. I couldn't train hard enough. And I kept switching things up every couple months because I didn't see the results that I wanted to see. And it had nothing to do with the programs. The programs would have worked. The diets would have worked. But I didn't. I was spending all my time playing Clash Royale. I was spending 4 hours a day just scrolling Instagram, doing useless shit. My life sucked. I had the identity of a loser. So it'd be impossible for this version of me to actually achieve that goal, to actually get to a 315 bench press. But fast forward about a year or two, I packed on quite a bit of muscle. This was my starting physique. I was quite skinny. This is my current physique, standing at about 200 pounds with abs. And I was able to completely shift my identity and become a new person. So I was actually able to hit that goal. Because the thing is, you don't achieve goals, you achieve versions of you that can achieve that goal, right? And this version of me up here wouldn't have been able to achieve shit. He would have been stuck with this very mediocre mid physique where he's kind of got abs, you can't really see him, a little too much body fat, decent arms, decent shoulders, just overall very mid physique, very underwhelming. This version of me wouldn't be able to achieve shit. But this version of me down here, I was able to wake up at 5 a.m. every single day for 6 months, who was able to slap on a shit ton of muscle, eat the same things every single day. That version of me was able to achieve the goal. So that's what you need to understand. You don't have goals that you achieve. You have identities that you achieve that unlock that outcome in the future. It's kind of like the goal that you want is behind a door. It's locked away. And right now, you have the wrong key to the door. The key you have won't work. So you need to change the key. You need to mold the key until it's right so you can open the door. Now, the only way to do that is, first of all, by detaching from the outcome. You have to adopt the identity and not care about the goals, because the more that you care about hitting this goal, the more that you think about it and how bad you want it and trying to shift everything in the world to it, that's the same as you just coloring on the mirror. That's the same as you just trying to change the reflection without changing yourself. When you care too much about the outcomes, you only focus on the mirror. You focus on what the external world can see. But that's not what matters. What matters is our internal state, the person that we are, so we can move forward. Which is why we need to only focus on input. Because the more you think about your goal, the more you obsess about it, and the more that you don't focus on the important thing, which is your daily inputs, the farther and farther away that goal gets. That's how you get in these repetitive cycles where you take action and then you fall off. It's all because you only focus on the output, the thing that you would get from the input. But your output doesn't change if you don't focus on the input, which is what you need to focus on. So you need to understand that you need to set input-based goals. Instead of saying, I'm going to bench press 315 pounds by the end of the year, you need to say, I'm going to have 25 bench sessions. I'm going to track all of my calories. I'm going to get at least 7 hours of rest every single night. Those are input-based goals, things that you can execute on every single day to achieve the outcome that you want. And once you've got those habits that you know you need to do in place, now you need to shift the identity, because you're always going to act in the way that you see yourself. So you need to step into that new life. You need to step into this new version of you that can actually achieve the goal, right? For me, I had to start waking up early. I had months where I woke up at 4:30 every single day. I tracked all of my calories. I had to stop playing video games. I had to lose friends. I had to go through all of this stuff to personally develop. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm at the end of the tunnel yet, because I've got so much farther that I need to go, that I want to go. But this is just what I had to do to unlock this identity for me that can bench 315 pounds, right? I had to track every calorie. I had to wake up early. I had to hit all my sessions. I had to train hard. That's what I had to do to achieve this goal. And once you shift the identity, you go from being this guy He's chasing the butterflies, wondering, oh, why can't I increase my bench strength anymore? Why can't I already just have the goal? Instead of just chasing, you focus on becoming and getting the habits down and just showing up every single day. And before you know it, you've got lots of butterflies in your garden. It's kind of like the same with girls, right? The more that you chase a girl, the more that she'll get like repulsed, the more that you'll kind of like push her away. Instead of just chasing, just focus on having like a sick life, doing cool stuff. And eventually, you'll just attract her into it. She'll want to join your life. But if you're just some loser who's just going out and just chasing all you can, it's not going to be as effective as just growing a garden. So now the next step, and it sounds kind of opposite of what I just said before, is that you need to set the goal and make the commitment. This is much more about making the mental commitment instead of it being about I'm going to achieve X goal. Because there's a different kind of training that you do. When you're training for a goal or when you're training for a competition, there's a different side of you that gets pulled out. Because now you know exactly what you need to do to move towards that goal instead of just kind of going through the motions where a lot of people get caught up in the gym. They'll just go to the gym for months and months and months and they'll show up every single day. They'll eat healthy. But just because they don't put that last and most important 10% effort, they reap only like 20% of the rewards that they could get. Like, how many people have you met in the gym that they go there consistently, they eat pretty healthy, but since they don't go just that extra step and track their calories and get enough protein, and because they don't go that extra step and get those last couple reps when it sucks, they leave about 80% of the gains on the table. But that wouldn't happen if they had a goal that they clearly knew that they were chasing after. Now, you need to make the mental commitment that you are going to do this, that there is no choice. Either you're going to make this happen or you're going to make this happen. There is no other choice, and that's what you have to give yourself. Now, once you've made this commitment in your mind, still, you should want the goal, you should want to move towards it, but you should focus on your input. And now I'm just going to recap it real quick because that can be a little confusing. But you're going to have this goal that you want to chase. That's got to be like your North Star in the sky that is guiding your actions forward. But if you're only looking at the North Star when you're trying to climb a mountain, you're going to continue tripping over the rocks on the path. You're going to continue falling down, falling short, and it would have been much faster to just take a glance at the North Star, keep your eyes on the trail, and then every once in a while, just glance at the North Star. Make sure you're going in the right direction. Because if you just fucking walk with your head up, you're not going to see shit. You're going to fall down, and you're going to get all the bad things that I just talked about, where you're going to stall for months, right? Just focus on the inputs, but have the goal in your mind. So once you've got this foundation set, once you've actually figured this out and you've figured out like the kind of person that you need to become to actually reach this level, which you might need to start doing early wake-ups to increase your discipline. You might have some bad habits that are holding you back from performing in the gym, right? For me, I used to eat like complete dog shit. I used to eat so much fucking candy. So I had to give up that bad habit of eating like a fat fuck. And one thing nobody talks about is how food is basically like, it's a drug. It is absolutely a drug. If you look at sugar, it might have the same effects on your brain as cocaine. Like someone did a study on that on rats. And it's like food and sugar and all this shit can be just as addictive as drugs. And those are things that you need to put to the side. Those are things that you need to put behind you so you can move forward, so you can actually achieve your goals. So just sit there and think, what kind of version of me achieves the goal that I want to achieve? Really think about that. Think about, what does his daily routine look like? Is he waking up early or is he sleeping in very late every single day? Is he eating like shit or is he eating clean? What kind of physique does he achieve? What kind of work does he put in? Think about everything that you need to do to grow the right garden. All right, so now that you've got all of that down, and if you didn't understand anything in that last section, please go back and watch it again, because everything, and I mean everything, depends on that. Everything from this point on in the video is going to be completely useless if you don't understand and implement all of the things that I just said. So if you haven't done that, go back, rewatch it, make sure you understand it, and then we can actually move on to the training part. Right. So the first thing that you need to understand with bench press or any movement is that mass is law. The lighter you are, the more likely your bench is going to be smaller. For me, when I benched 315, I was 200 pounds. That was a 1.6 body weight bench. That was nothing crazy. Now, if you're doing powerlifting where you need to be in a certain weight class for your competitions, it's going to take longer to actually hit 315. But if you're able to bulk up, that's going to make it way easier to actually move the weight. Now, I'm not saying you need to look like Mark Henry to hit 315, but the chances of you hitting 315 at 135 pounds is insanely low, right? So ideally, you want to be weighing around 180 to 200 pounds when you go for it. But you should be lean. You should have abs at that weight. Otherwise, if you bulk up really fast and you just put on a lot of fat because you just say, oh, mass is law, I just need to get as fat as possible to move this weight, you're going to end up fucking yourself up. You're going to sacrifice your physique and have a powerlifter's physique. That's not what you want. You want to have abs and still be able to hit 315, right? So you want to do a long, slow, and steady bulk, try and gain more weight while implementing the right workout routine so you can actually hit the number. So to blow up your bench, there's a couple things that are very important. First of all is your frequency and your volume. Next up is your exercise selection. And then last but not least is your programming. So in terms of your frequency and volume, first thing is your bench frequency. How many times a week do you bench? If you want to get better at bench, you need to bench more. Benching is a skill. You need to train your nervous system and your stabilizer muscles and literally everything else in your body to be able to hit higher amounts of weight. It is absolutely a skill, and it's something that you learn how to harness more. There's a reason why everyone that's like stupidly strong on a chest press or on dips, when they come over and try and do bench, the reason why they tend to be weaker is because they don't know the right form. They don't know how to use all of this raw strength that they built up and transfer it into the bar and move the weight, right? So it absolutely is a skill. So to increase the skill at the fastest level, you should be benching 2 to 3 times per week. Now, you probably could do 4 times a week, but then we're getting into like kind of advanced territory. I want to keep this a little more simple because the other thing with this bench program is that I still want you to be able to train hypertrophy because there's no point in benching 315 if you're just a fatty. Like, you don't want to be looking like a strongman. And that's why I think benching 2 to 3 times a week is the highest return on investment for moving yourself towards benching 315 while not becoming like some fatty and having overdeveloped pecs, underdeveloped arms, and just all sorts of things that just makes your physique look bad. Now, I also want you to understand that doing more frequency and doing more volume does not always equal better. See, doing more only works if you're doing it right. If you're doing the right reps, if you're doing the right things. Putting more shit on a pile of shit does not make that shit better, right? It's just a bigger pile of shit. So you need to make sure that you're actually like training hard enough, that you have the right amount of volume, and that you have good quality before stepping up your volume and your frequency, which is why I think most people should start with 2 times a week. That's what I did. I've never benched more than 2 times a week, right? I've always been on a bodybuilding split, and that's how I was able to still achieve a 315 bench while building my physique, because you don't need to sacrifice your physique to be able to bench 315. Now, in terms of your bench volume, you should be doing about 5 to 10 sets of bench press per week. This is what I've always been doing whenever I've been on like any sort of split where I'm trying to increase my bench strength. And the next thing is higher weight and lower reps. So for your sets, I would recommend anywhere from doing like 3 to 6 reps with anywhere of like 75 to 85% of your 1 rep max. And you can do anywhere from like 3 to 5 sets per workout. Now, we're also going to talk about some other exercises to include, but this is going to be your bread and butter. Doing some heavy bench press sets every single workout at 75 to 85% of your 1 rep max, doing 3 to 5 reps. Now, the other thing that you need to understand is that training for strength is not the same as training for muscle. You don't need to train to failure on every single set, nor should you. You should be leaving around 1 to 2 reps in reserve on every single set so you don't fry. So you don't give yourself like too much fatigue for your next set. So 3 to 6 reps, 3 to 5 sets per session, and maybe some other exercise that you can include in your exercise selection is all going to depend on addressing your weak points. So if you film yourself benching, you need to see where your form breaks down, and you need to use accessories to strengthen your weak points. So let's say you really struggle with getting the bar off your chest. That's where you always fail. And every time that you've hit a PR and you get it just out of that, and you get it out of the hole, and it just flies up, then we know that your weakness is just getting it off your chest. Now, it could be lockout because your triceps are weak. So this is where we can use accessories to strengthen your weak points. Now, in my humble opinion, I think a pause bench and a close grip bench is the king of bench accessories because it addresses the two biggest weak points, which is getting it off your chest and locking out the reps. So these are two exercises that you absolutely should incorporate into your split. So maybe I do some pause bench on one day, having more of a technique day, using about 65 to 75% of your 1 rep max, or doing a close grip bench with a similar weight or a JM press, really just to focus on that lockout and making sure that you're keeping the focus on your triceps. Now, it's going to vary from person to person, which is usually why it is best to get a coach so you understand what you need to do better. Because the thing is, in your shoes, you've never been where you wanted to go. So there's going to be some things that you just lack there. And that's just part of the process of figuring it out yourself. So it's kind of a question that you have to ask yourself. Do I want to pay in time or do I want to pay with money? It's one or the other. Now, last but not least is your form. You're only going to be as strong as your form allows you to be. So I'm going to quickly go over a couple basics, just a couple pointers to help you out. Some things I really wish I knew when I started out. So let's hop right in. All right, so first things first, you have to get the setup right. Eyes should be directly under the bench. So when you lay down, the bar should be straight across your eyes. Now, the reason why you want it there is so you don't get the rack in the way, because once you do pick the weight up, you want it to be over your shoulders. And if the weight is over your shoulders when it's on the rack, guess what? Now you're going to have to hold the bar forward. It's going to mess with your strength. And it's just not fun. So it's something that we need to make sure we get down. So also right here, you probably can't tell, I retracted, I'm pulling my shoulder blades together. That's the best position. You want to keep your shoulders in so you don't get any injuries or anything like that. So make sure you're really squeezing your shoulder blades together while you're getting into position. Now you can already see a couple other things here, like how I'm getting an arch in my back, how I'm planting my feet in the ground. You want your heel and your toe on the ground, and you want to think about, and you want to have some tension in your feet, right? So you should be kind of doing a little bit of a leg extension. Now, next up, you want to get a grip, good comfortable grip that's not too wide, not too narrow, somewhere in between, maybe 1.5 times your shoulder width. And then you can see I'm getting my arch, making sure that that's right. And one last thing you want to make sure is that you've got your 5 points of contact that always stay on the bench. You have your feet, your butt, you have your shoulders, and you have your head. These are the 5 points of contact you should always have on every single rep. So when you do bring the bar down, if you looked at this video from the side, the bar would start here, let's say my head is here and my body's here. Get a very long torso. You want to bring the bar down to your nipple line. So the bar path is going to look something like this right here. And that's what ideally it should look like. You shouldn't just be pressing straight up and down. Just put your shoulders in a bad position. You're weaker there. So you should have that kind of bar path. You can notice if you watch the video, you notice the bar, it comes forward and then it goes up and back. So that's how your bench press should be looking. And then we've got the bump. So when the bar does touch your chest, you can give it a little bump. Now, you shouldn't start humping the air with your hips. That's removing one of your points of contact. It just makes you weaker. What you should be doing is doing like a leg extension and timing that when the bar comes down. Now, Larry Wheels has got a really good video explaining it, so he's going to do a way better job than I ever could. It's kind of complicated and difficult to explain quickly, so go check out his video on YouTube. He has on Bench Press Form. Now, last but not least, we have your programming. So, on every single day that you're going to bench should be the first set during that workout. So, I don't care if you're doing regular bench press or pause bench press, that should always be the first lift that you're doing on an upper body day, on a push day. No matter what it is, you need to be doing that first. Because as you work out, like the amount of energy you're able to put out slowly and gradually decreases, which is why we need to put the most important things first, because we have the most amount of energy and power, meaning we can get a higher stimulus leading to more growth, leading to more strength gains. So what I would recommend if you're starting out is having a one heavy day where you're doing about 75 to 85% of your one rep max, doing 3 to 6 reps, 3 to 5 sets, and then having like 1 or 2 technique days. And I mean, it does depend on your training split. If you're doing upper body 3 times a week, you can have 2 technique days, but I just advise do 2 days, do 1 heavy day, 1 technique day, and your split should be addressing your weaknesses. So after you do your main lift, which is probably going to be bench press or it's going to be pause bench, then you're going to go into your other accessory movements where you're trying to bring up those weak points. Or if those weak points are the main focus of the lift and it's not a heavy day, it's more of a technique day, those should be put first in the workout. You shouldn't be putting close grip bench if your triceps are weak at the end of a push day because they're going to be exhausted and you're not going to be able to push as hard. Now also, holy shit, I've got the fucking spelling of a 5th grader, bro. Holy smokes. There we go. Now, your split should also be addressing your weaknesses. If your shoulders are lacking, your program should reflect the fact that you want to bring them up. This is, again, it's going to be a lot easier to just get a coach to make you a split. But, yeah, just based off these things that I'm saying, you should be having 3 to 5 sets every single session of bench press, either focused on your accessory for your technique day or on your heavy day where you're focusing mainly on bench and then doing like a couple lighter sets of your accessories. Now, next up, for your sets and your intensity, your heavy sets, the goal isn't to reach failure. Your body only cares about how much weight you push relative to your 1 rep max. And it should be anywhere that's over like 70% of your 1 rep max, but that also depends on the exercise. You're going to be weaker on your pause bench than you are going to be on your normal bench, which is why I've put these different estimates up here, right? So 65 to 75% of your 1 rep max is a good weight for close grip and pause bench. And then for heavy bench, for your heavy bench sets, anywhere from 75 to 85% of your 1 rep max for a couple reps, that's golden. Now again, you shouldn't be reaching failure. Leave like a rep, 2 or 3 in reserve in the tank. Now last thing is that you need to get into flow state during your workouts. Like dude, you're going to be moving lots of weight and that requires a lot of concentration. And the best way to have fucking sick workouts is just get into flow state. Now, the only way that you're able to get into flow state is if you're not distracted by other things. What usually distracts people at the gym? It's their phone. It's Instagram. It's notifications. Those are things you need to remove. You need to just get rid of everything that kind of derails your training, which is why also, if you have a gym bro where you're constantly changing your split because he's doing something else and you guys just kind of fuck around, that kind of training is not going to get you the results you want. So either you're going to have to bring them up to your level, or it's best that you train alone on your bench days, or just in general. Now, the next thing that's really important for getting into flow state is just getting warm. I don't know what it is about having a hoodie on when you're going to go bench, but there's something about just having some sweat in your workout, something about just being warm. So make sure you get a little warm up in, wear a little too much clothing. Like, put a hoodie on if it's like nice and sunny outside. Make sure that you can sweat a little bit because the last thing you want to do as well when you're going heavy is being cold in the gym. Next thing is that you need to set your intention. You need to know exactly what you're trying to improve during your workouts. Otherwise, you're just going to drift. The time is just going to pass in the gym and you could get a lot more out of it. So set your intention before you go into the gym. You should know everything that you're trying to improve before you go enter the gym. Last but not least, doing some preset visualizations. So imagining you hitting the amount of reps that you need to hit. So if you're trying to set a new 6-rep max, you imagine yourself just hitting that weight. But you don't want to imagine yourself actually doing the thing or actually doing the set. You want to imagine yourself after the set, the feeling that you get in your head, because this puts you on a different frequency where you think you've already done it. So your mind is going to find a way to do it. It's kind of crazy how that works. You can read a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. It's very interesting about the subconscious mind. Definitely worth a read. But using this technique, I've been able to progress in just about every single lift. So there are more things that you need to understand about, like, workout splits, and I could go on for hours and hours and give you so much information that it would hurt your brain. But I think the better thing for you to do is just to adjust your push days or adjust your upper body days, integrate the one heavy day, the one like forearm day, and then just kind of build your split so it meets these requirements. It has enough accessories for addressing your weak points, and just make sure you're progressing. Now, again, it's going to be a lot easier to get a coach, but you can absolutely do this for free. I did it free, but if I could go back in time, I would have done it 10 times faster with a coach. Now, last up, we have nutritional. So again, mass is going to be law for your 1-rep max. Building strength on a bench is going to be much more difficult if you're in a deficit, and it's always going to go slower because your carbs are going to determine your training ceiling. So basically, if you can go on a long, sustainable bulk where you're in a 300 to 500 calorie surplus and you're slowly progressing, that's the best place to be in to get to your goal. But like, if you're fat, if you're obese, you need to go on a cut first before going on that bulking stage. And that's a much better thing to do for aesthetics. You probably shouldn't be thinking about trying to bench 315 just yet until you're a bit leaner and you can start this whole bulking phase. Now, just for a bulk, just slow, steady gain, 0.5 to 1 pounds per week, 250 to 500 calorie surplus. I've made guides on exactly how to do this before, so if you want me to send them over, you can just shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'll get back to you pretty quick and send you the video that you need to watch. And I've made more extensive guides, so you can go check those out. Now, last but not least is that you need to fuel your training properly. So about an hour or two before you go train, you need to have a carb-heavy meal. And in the hour after you train, you also need to have a carb-heavy meal. Otherwise, what you're going to do is you're literally going to break down muscle once you're done training to convert that into carbs for your body to recover, right? The most important macronutrient for training, it's not protein. It's not protein. It's carbs. That's the most important thing that you get before and after workout. And if I had to choose in my post-workout meal, what can I get in? Carbs or protein? I'm going to choose carbs every time because they're more important. Now, last but not least, we have a liquid intra-workout. So this is something that you eat while you're doing the workout to make sure that your energy is up. And if you're doing lifts that take more than an hour, this is mandatory. It's something that you need. So anything that's liquid carbs that are fast, that's what you want. Avoid any fiber soda. I don't even know if that's a thing, but I've heard about it before. Avoid protein drinks. Avoid anything that's high in fats, proteins, fiber, all of that shit. That's the last thing you want while you're training. Juice works really well. Honey works really well. Soda works pretty well. Gatorade, all sorts of stuff like that. You get the idea of what's going to work well. But you don't want it to be something that you have to eat, right? That's not an intra-workout. You want to have something liquid. That's going to be the best. So that's just about everything on how you can hit 315 on bench completely naturally, no sauce, nothing like that. So I hope this made sense to you guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me on Instagram, shoot me a DM. I'd love to help you out. But yeah, that's everything for today. Love you boys. Take care.